YouTube family. This is Mahadeva. Right, so I'm very tired. Did a lot of surfing, so I'm happy, but I'm very tired. And I just couldn't think of what to talk about today. So I thought I would share with you some of my recent experience with my own Arudha Lagna, and the karmic lessons that are associated potentially with this aspect of Vedic astrology. So, if you're not familiar with Vedic astrology, this is the astrology of East India, which is in fact, sorry, I'm trying to write and talk at the same time. Vedic astrology of India, so it's going to be different from Western astrology. The basics are the same 12 houses, same planets, except for the outer planets, same 12 signs. A lot of those things are the same, but it is a different calculation. Because I'm sorry to tell you, those of you who love your Western astrology, please forgive me, but unfortunately, Western astrology is based off of an inaccurate calculation. The sky, the chart that you're looking at, is not accurate. It's off by 24 degrees. So that means that your sun sign, your moon sign, your ascendant could be completely different. You could have planets in totally different houses, even if your planets do end up in the same houses and the same signs, they are going to be off by 24 degrees. So Vedic astrology uses what's called the sidereal zodiac, which is an accurate reflection of the actual light of the stars that were hitting the earth directly above your head when you were born. So it's an accurate calculation. So some of the things are going to be different. So this is why I only deal with Vedic astrology for that reason. The second thing is that in Vedic astrology, we don't use the sun sign as your sign. You can use, just to be clear, you can use any of the planets as the ascendant, and you can look at a chart from any house and any planet. So there is some arbitrariness to that. But the reason why Vedic astrology does not use the sun is because the ascendant itself, the rising sign, is very changeable, and it shows a very precise snapshot of what we would consider to be your personality. But it's really, for instance, my ascendant is Leo. So that means at the time of my birth, my soul chose to look at the world from the glasses of a Leo. And that is why Leo is my sign in Vedic astrology, whereas my sun is actually in Virgo. But Virgo, if you've been on my channel, I'm really not, that's not my dominant trait or personality. So those are some differences. Please do not ask me questions about your Western chart, because I don't know anything about Western astrology and it doesn't apply here. Don't try and apply this to your Western chart, because it won't work. All right, so today we're going to talk about what is called the Arudha Lagna. What was I going to write down? So anyway, I'll just write it down here. The Arudha, sorry, I'm a little spacey today. Arudha Lagna. And this loosely translates as your reflection to the world. It's actually I believe the actual translation, direct translation, is the Lagna of, or the mount of the Lagna. So your rising sign is called the Lagna. So Lagna means screwed into place, literally. And we have in English, we have the word lug nut. Well, guess what? Lug comes from the same root as lagna. and it means the exact same thing. You know what a lug nut is? It's those big nuts that, you know, if there's a bolt sticking up, it screws something into place. And that's a really great metaphor, because that's what happens. The moment that you're born, your identity is screwed into this physical body. Before birth, you know, there's this malleability. The soul and the body are kind of trying to get to know each other. But the moment that you're born, that's when it's fully integrated. You're completely now in your physical body, which is why you cry and scream, because the trauma of being separated not only from the mother but from infinity. So the Lagna, so the Arudha means the mount. And in Vedic astrology and in the Hindu religion, you have, the gods will have mounts. They'll have animals. So Shiva has a bull. Let's see, what else? Shiva has a bull. Durga has a lion, right? So these represent the vehicle that transports their energy. And so the Arudha Lagna is like your vehicle. It's what your soul rides on. It literally takes you into the world, whether you like it or not. And this is one of the biggest lessons of the Arudha Lagna. So it means that when you walk in the room, people don't see you as you are. That you walk in with this experience of yourself. When you walk in the room, you see yourself a certain way. You want people to see you that way. And they don't. They see you based on the Lagna. What comes, it's the mount that you're on, and you can't change that. This is the biggest lesson. You cannot change how people see you. You can change your behavior, but if your behavior or the way you present yourself clashes with your Lagna, then people are going to respond negatively towards you. They won't like you. They won't trust you. They'll feel uncomfortable around you. And I recently have been experiencing this, so I'm sharing it with you. And, you know, here's the thing about, very oftentimes it's not, quote, fair. So we'll get into specifics. Let me explain more about the Arudha Lagna. So you walk in the room, people see you as your Arudha, whether you like it or not. When your actions and your presentation is in alignment with how people see you, people respond positively towards you, even if it's negative. So, you know, there's all different kinds of Arudas. You can walk into the room and people can think that you're an ascended master, even though you're not. Even though you might really be the furthest, you might not have the first clue about spirituality, or you may not like the idea of spirituality. If your Arudha is that you're an enlightened master, anything that comes out of your mouth, people are going to think is really spiritual and brilliant. You'll have an ability to become a spiritual teacher. I'm just giving you this example of one Arudha. Let's say you have Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 9th house, and that is your Arudha. Even if you're something completely different, right? Even if your Mars is in your 1st house with Rahu and Venus, you know, totally different from Jupiter that way, that's how people are going to see you, whether you like it or not. So let's take a look, and let me just show you how to first decide what your Arudha is. So you're going to have to get a Vedic chart done, and so you can look at your planets. And just to let you know, when you have that, I think it's the North Indian chart, you counterclockwise. So the 1st house is at the top, and then it goes 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I'm doing things backwards because I think it'll look clockwise to you. Right? So you have to do that. So let's take a look at my chart here so you can see what mine is. Oops, that's not what I want. This one. All right, so there's just a mock-up of my chart. All right, so you see here that where it says ASC, that means ascendant. It's the first house. So that's really my experience of myself, because it's my ascendant and my moon, which is your mind and emotion. So I really identify with my Arudha. With my ascendant. That's my personality, it's my physical body, all of that. I really identify with that, but that's not how people see me. So in order to find out how people see me, you have to look at the number. You see beneath MON, which is moon, there's a number 5. That means the sign of Leo, because Leo is the 5th sign in the zodiac. So that means that I'm a Leo ascendant. So now I have to find out where the sun is, because the sun is the lord of the sign of Leo. So as it happens, you can see in where it says 6, which is the second house, you see Sun, Mercury, and Venus. So sun is 2 houses away. You include the house that you start with, so first house, second house, 2 houses from my ascendant is sun. So we count the same number of houses that it is from the ascendant. So that means 2 houses from the second, which is the third, because you count 1, the second house, 2, the third house. And you end up with Mars in the third house in Leo. So when I walk in the room or when I interact with people, that's what they see, whether I like it or not. Okay? Got it? So you'll have to figure that out. There's a couple of rules here, by the way, which are that your Arudha, if it lands, when you calculate it, if it lands in the first house or in the 7th house, then you have to use the 10th house. The 10th house is the natural Arudha of anybody's chart, because it is your fame. So if you calculate it and the Arudha goes to the first house or the 7th house, the general rule, and there's some controversy about it, but this is written in the Vedic astrological scriptures, that you use the 10th house. So your Arudha can't be the first house or the 7th house. There are other places the Arudha won't land, I think the 12th house, and I can't remember what else. But there's other places where if your Arudha lands in those houses, you've calculated wrong. Like it's mathematically impossible for anybody's house to be other than a few, certain houses in the chart. Any case, third house is one of them. So that is my Arudha. So you have Mars, which is the warrior, and then you have Libra, which is the sign of balance. So Libra is a Venus sign. So Mars isn't happy there. Left to himself, Mars wants to go out and fight and destroy and kill. And Venus, especially in the sign of Libra, says, no, we find cooperation. We find balance. The scales of balance in Libra don't mean the scales of justice. They mean the scales of equanimity, where it's the scale that the merchant has in the city square, and he is weighing somebody's gold compared to whatever, so it's like, yeah, everybody gets a good deal, everybody walks away happy. And so Libra can be the sign of counselors, of healers, of mediators. So here I have the warrior in the sign of the mediator, the counselor, the healer, the shaman. And so Mars isn't very happy there. He would much rather go out and knock people's heads off and conquer. So that right there causes a conflict in terms of my Arudha, and that means that when I interact with people, I have to be coming from a place of seeking their best balance. Otherwise, I'm going to come off negatively. The other thing that you want to look for, we'll bring my Arudha back up here. The other thing that you want to look for is you look at the ascendant versus the Arudha. So the Arudha is the Arudha of a warrior, because there's Mars. And even though Leo and Mars get along very well, smack dab in the center of my ascendant is Moon. So Moon in the ascendant actually makes somebody, and some of you are going to be shocked when you hear this, but Moon in the ascendant actually makes somebody very, we could even say codependent. They're very emotionally sensitive and intuitive, and they seek to take care of everybody. They seek to heal everybody. So that is my essence. It also makes me very sensitive, especially because even though Moon is empowered in Leo, the Sun is going through what's called Sankranti when I was born, which means that Sun is angry. So that means the Sun is not shining well because I was changing signs. And I was born during a new moon, which means my moon was completely blocked off from the Sun altogether. So Moon was, in essence, very debilitated. This is considered a curse in Vedic astrology. In fact, two curses heaped on top of each other. Sankranti dosha and the moon being a new moon dosha. Two very bad curses. So what that makes me, especially when I was a kid, it made me extremely sensitive and feeling very weak and very unseen and very isolated, very brooding sort of artist kind of scenario. In fact, my first day in kindergarten, I remember it. I was so shy, believe it or not. I was so shy, I couldn't speak. The first day, I didn't even open my mouth. I didn't say anything to anybody. And I remember there was this little girl, and she walked over, and she came and started talking to me, and I just looked at her, and I didn't say anything. She's like, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you talking?" And then she finally turned around and walked away. For whatever reason, I couldn't speak. I couldn't say anything. So that's actually my experience of myself very often. So what ends up happening is if I operate from that, let's say if I walk in the room and I am feeling very sensitive and very, vulnerable, very emotional, whatever. If I walk in the room and I act like that, unfortunately, my Arudha is a screen. It's a filter. So even if I try to express that, what's going to happen is it's going to go through the filter of the warrior. And instead of looking like what I want it to look like, which is I'm emotional, I'm vulnerable, whatever it is, what's going to come out is an angry, vengeful warrior. And it's very frustrating for me because there's lots of times when I am wounded and hurt and I try to express that, people only see me as being rageful. Very frustrating. But that's because I'm not operating from my Arudha. But my Arudha is still activated, which means that what ends up happening is that your negative qualities will come out. So the shadow side of the warrior is that, the killer, the destroyer, the sociopath, right? That's the shadow side of the warrior, which my Arudha is not. Now, if my Arudha was Mars in Aries in the third house, then actually me being this sociopathic, bully would actually work. People would respond well to it. This is the interesting thing about the Arudha. Even if it's, quote, negative, if you play it up, it works well for you. So when I try to operate from that vulnerable, emotional, I'm just trying to share my feelings, it always comes out that I'm bludgeoning people with it. And it's the strangest thing. So then the shadow side of that, like for instance, if I were to try to physicalize that, I might go inward. But what ends up happening is I end up looking like a serial killer, right? If I go in and I look like I'm about to tear your soul apart. So it never works. So the karmic responsibility that I have, whether I like it or not, is that I must always operate in the world as a warrior healer. I must do that. Now there's some, just to share with you, this is what goes on with me. You look at your chart and see what happens, because as I said, before I get too wound up in my own narcissism here, what you want to look for is, once you understand the essence of the ascendant, you then want to understand the essence of the Arudha. So right now we've got Mars and Moon are already at odds with each other, right? So Moon is in the ascendant and Mars is the Arudha. So right there, there's a conflict. The Arudha itself is already conflicted because it's got Mars in a Venus sign. And it's got, Mars is in its one of its favorite houses, which is the third house. So Mars loves being in the third house because in the third house, Mars gets to tell everybody what to do. Because that's what the third house represents. It represents verbal communication. It can represent mass communication, like writing, internet, things like that. In fact, it works well, reality television. So the reason why my career is I come and make these videos almost on a daily basis is because my Arudha is the third house, which is that. It's newspapers, it's news broadcasts, it's ever changing, it's reality TV. I've written big, huge novels. I've written screenplays and movies. Brilliant, I might say. Some of the most brilliant things ever put to paper, and they've gone nowhere. Why? Because my Arudha is not the fifth house. The fifth house is those kinds of things, war and peace. Just that one book, just was the reputation. You just need to write the one book, and that's it. You're good for the rest of your life. That's the fifth house. Third house is the moment you say something, it is talked about for 24 hours and then it's forgotten the next day and you got to keep it. So I got to keep making these videos. Otherwise, nothing happens with my finances. Literally, my finances disappear. Doesn't matter how much stuff I have online. If I'm not talking every day, I don't make money. So Mars likes to do that. Mars wants to be in your face and tell you what the hell's wrong with you and blah, 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 which I do. But I can only do that if my intention is to, with love and with the desire to heal, give you the bitter truth. So I'm not going to stop getting in your face. I'm not going to stop psychoanalyzing your nonsense, but know that I'm doing it to help you. And as long as I'm conscious of that, I'm okay. But what I can't do is I can't, when I'm feeling emotionally cornered, when I'm frustrated, or if, this happens like in relationships, if I've got, so my feelings aren't being seen and I try and get my feelings heard, what ends up happening is people think that this huge giant warrior is coming at them and pummeling them into oblivion. My perspective is I'm just trying to share my thoughts and my feelings. So that is my karmic lesson. So here's the thing about the Arudha. The Arudha isn't always fair. So if you're looking for fairness in this life, I advise you to stop doing that right now. So you have to look at things practically. How does your Arudha practically need to function in order for you to succeed? So, I'm specifically talking about, I have other, self-help groups that I hang out with and groups of people we get together, and lots of times in those discussions things come up and people regress and their issues come out, or there's conflicts, right? And that's the whole idea. We work them out, we learn how to communicate in constructive ways. But if I get stimulated and I feel attacked and I go to express my feelings, all anybody can hear is that I am just pummeling them into oblivion. And it's very frustrating. But the karmic lesson is, obviously, in this life, for whatever reason, I have to always be in control of that. I have to always be conscious of that and know that that warrior is always going to come out. And unless he is the healer, then people are going to be intimidated. There are times where I'm not a professional fighter. I've never gotten in the ring. I've trained in martial arts, etc., but I've had, professional MMA fighters, boxers, and they'll want to square off, and all I'll do is, even if I'm jokingly put up my hands, they get scared. A lot of them. And it's amazing to see the look on their face, how frightened they get. And that's because that's my Arudha. It's not really that they could probably wipe the floor with me. But your Arudha is that powerful. People will believe your Arudha no matter how you feel. So let's take a look again at the chart here. So again, what you want to look at when you're looking at somebody's Arudha or your own Arudha is you're wanting to see if your Arudha aligns with your ascendant. And if it doesn't, this means that you have a karmic lesson to overcome. You want to punch up the ways they do connect. So in terms of mine, Mars and Sun work very well together. So that's good. So that means I can come across confident. If I come across confident within myself, even if I'm not feeling confident, it will work for me. People will respond well to me if I'm feeling confident, truly confident. When we look at it again, we have Moon and we have Libra, which is Venus. Venus and Moon have some similarities, which are intuitiveness, healing, connecting to people. So I always have to be thinking to myself, if I want people to respond positively when I'm stimulated, is I have to be thinking, all right, how can I connect with them first? I must first acknowledge and connect with them on an emotional level, let them feel safe and secure, and then I can talk about my feelings. It's not fair. So that's the thing. It's not fair, but it's obviously a karmic thing that I have to work through in this life. But for many people, their Arudha aligns exactly with their ascendant. So for instance, I'm trying to come up with something. Let's say somebody is Aries. Aries is their first house, but they don't have... Anyway, I'm getting kind of lost. Let's just imagine somebody's Aries and we look at their 10th house and their Mars is sitting in their 10th house, right? So if that were the case and we use the 10th house, I'm not doing exact calculations here. So let's just assume that I know what I'm talking about at this moment, which I don't. But if Mars was in the 10th house and they were Aries, then they wouldn't have to worry about it. They would just act the way they feel. So if your ascendant and the ascendant Lord is vibing very well with the Arudha, then you don't have to worry about this. You just go and be yourself. And being yourself, you'll have the experience of, as long as you're authentic in who you think you are and how you experience yourself, people will respond positively to that. If there's some slight variations, it's not exact, but they're close, then you just simply focus on those things that you do relate to that are associated with your Arudha. And then, again, people will respond very positively to you. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go through all the mental gymnastics that I have to go through or some other people have to go through. But the most important lesson in all of this is that the universe is only interested in your actions. The universe is not all that interested in your feelings. And that's unfortunate because everybody wants to, especially nowadays. One of the things that's absolutely the case nowadays is that we have the entire world completely obsessed with their own narcissistic feelings. if they, they only, United States is a great example. The United States, the land of the free, the home of the brave. Well, unfortunately now when they're under pressure to come together and act in ways that are beneficial for the group and not the individual, because the United States is so about the individual, people refuse to do that. If they don't like it, they're not going to do it. Even if it's dangerous to their health or other people's health, or if it's dangerous to democracy, they don't care. As long as they want it, don't take my freedoms away. Don't tread on me. Don't tell me what to do. I feel this way, therefore that's the way it is. So if you operate like that with your Arudha, then what's going to happen is you are going to be poor, you are going to be unliked, you're going to be misunderstood, you're going to be frustrated, people are going to resent you. But if you're willing to get rid of your narcissistic need to have your emotional experience met and understood, if you're willing to put that aside and ask yourself, what is it that my Arudha says I'm supposed to be? I don't feel like that. I don't even like that. Doesn't matter. That's your role. This is your role in this play. We're in a play. This physical life is a stage play, and you've been assigned a part. So your Arudha is like when your soul gets here in the human form, there's the casting director who walks up to you and says, great, we're about to start the performance. Here's your role. And they hand you a script. And then your lines are highlighted. And you look at it and you say, I don't know anything about what this person is. And the director says, I don't care about that. Just show up, put on your costume, hit your mark, and say your line. That's your job. And trust me, you'll be fine. I've cast you in this part because even if you completely phone it in and you don't mean any of it, as long as you show up in costume and say your line, the audience is going to stand up and applaud. They're going to throw flowers at you. They're going to think it's the most amazing performance that ever was in the history of the dramatic arts. So you have to look at your life this way. Your life is that you are here to play your part. I'm sorry if that hurts your ego, but that's what you have close friends for. That's what you have family for. That's what you have intimate relationships, so that you can eventually reveal your true self and have them see you for who you really are. But in terms of your interaction with the world, they're going to see you as your Arudha, for better or for worse. So I had to learn that I had to be, if I wanted to function well in society, I had to be confident and like a Leo and like a warrior. I had to be out there. Here I am, this is who I am, but I had to be the protector. And as long as I did that, everybody likes me. As long as I'm in your face, telling you the truth, whether you like it or not, and as long as I'm coming from a desire to help you, even if some people get their feelings hurt, everybody else throws money at me and everybody else wants to watch my channel. Now, there's something else in the Arudha, which I may have talked about before, but I'm going to share it with you again. Because again, I ran into some difficulty with this. I ran into some ego issues. That is still to this day, I have to say, it's not an easy thing for my ego to take. But I've accepted it and I use it. I use it for my success, because if I do that, it's also going to be helpful to others. So in order to do that, we look at the 10th from the Arudha. So in my case, that's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the 10th from my Arudha is the 12th house, which is Cancer in the 12th house. So then we go, if you want to see people's reactions, I think I'm doing this right. I hope I'm doing this right. If I'm doing it wrong, I'll let you know. So the 10th from the 10th The 10th house from the 10th house shows people's reactions, which is your reputation based on your experience in the world, right? So the 10th from my Arudha is the 12th house. So if I want to see people's response to that, I look at the 10th from the 10th. So the 10th from the 10th is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what? All right, forget everything I just said. Forget everything I just said about that. I'm going to have to research that. Forget it. All right, I'm now happy to take questions. As I said, this video today is kind of a throwaway for me because I'm so tired, but let's see. I don't see any questions here. I see Dean Nevins has a question. Question, my Arudha is in my 11th house. Does that mean that I can have a lot of incoming gains from it? But it will require a lot of work. Well, so yeah, what is the 11th house? The 11th house is the house of gains. So anything in your 11th house means that that's what's going to be associated by things that you work for in this life. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to require a lot of work. It might. It just means that's what you're going to get as a result of the work that you do. The gains will be a result of the work that you do. So I know, knowing what I know about you, Dean Nevins, I know what's happening is that your Saturn's coming in and wants to tell you that you have to constantly work really super hard on everything. So I just want to caution you on that. I can see that's where you're wanting to go to that place. Maybe it means that you work hard for it, maybe it doesn't. It just means that that's what's going to be the result of the work that you put, the gains you'll get from the result that you work. But your Arudha also means that you are going to be connected to that your gains, since your Arudha is in the 11th, it means that people see you as somebody who's connected to the collective unconscious. So that's your Arudha. The first thing that people experience of you is that you have a connection to the collective unconscious of the world, because the 11th house is networking. The 11th house is sales, it's the internet, it's television, media. So I know what it is that you're working towards in terms of your business. So you know what I'm talking about. That what you're doing is directly connecting to the collective unconscious of the world, and people are going to see you as somebody who does that well. Okay? But yes, I don't think you need to get all wrapped up into, does it mean I have to that I'm going to have to work really, really hard? I know that's your Saturn trying to criticize you. So don't get too wrapped up in that. Chong the Viking. Who was Chong the Viking? I forget. It was somebody that just revealed to me who they were. I'm forgetting who it was. Anyway, Chong the Viking. Question. Do we choose our Arudha script before we come to Earth? It's a great question. I don't have the answer to that question. I can only tell you what it feels like for me, but I know, originally when I started talking about the Arudha, I was projecting my own experience to everybody. And I was saying that the Arudha shows you your karmic false humility. Now that's me talking. That's me. My karmic false humility. My debilitated moon in the first house doesn't want to put himself out there. Like I was in kindergarten. I really don't want to be seen. I don't want a lot of attention in that way. But I have to get over that. I have to not only be seen, I have to be seen in a way that I don't feel comfortable with. I don't like bullies, and I'm intimidated, and I get hostile towards people that walk around puffing their chest out. I don't like that. I get very, very uncomfortable around it. But that's who I have to be. I have to be that guy that stands around and puffs his chest out, but I have to do it with a smile on my face. If I don't do that, I'm not successful. If I act like a wallflower, like I said, I look like a serial killer. So I have to do that which is directly opposite my karmic thing. So there's obviously a karmic issue there. There's another karmic issue because obviously in a previous life, maybe it's not obvious, but I'm certain of it, having done some work on it. In a previous life, I've been a warrior and an assassin numerous times. So I have karma when it comes to actual physical violence. And so I've got Mars in the third house, which is hands, which means that you don't want me to connect. If I connect, it's lights out. And I've seen that over and over again, even when I'm, even like just playing with people, just barely, boom, it's over, even when I don't try to. That's tough because Mars wants to do that. If Mars was, let's see, in the third house in Aries, for example, I might be a professional fighter because Aries is the warrior and Mars now is being told by Aries, you go out and fight. Mike Tyson. But because my Mars is sitting in the third house, it means that Mars, I've got good hands, you don't want to mess with me. But at the same time, it's being lorded over by Venus, which says, I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I had to take a vow of nonviolence very early in my life. In fact, when I was a little kid, I was always the shortest kid in school, and I always ended up being the toughest kid in elementary school, right? Elementary school, the big kids would come in, and the shortest kid in school would knock them out. And then the karma kicked in and everybody started going through puberty. I was a late bloomer and I'd walk out there, not thinking I could take on anybody. And now these guys with testosterone in their body and pubic hair, they'd hit me and I'd go down like, a house of cards. And I decided that losing a fight was not very fun. And then when I started training in martial arts, the universe pulled me aside and said, you have to take a vow of nonviolence, or so I did. And so there you have that. I have that dynamic struggle. How much of that is my choice? How much of that is karma? I don't know, to answer your question. Did we choose to do it? I say that the safest way to address those questions is to always assume that you did. It never serves you to assume that you didn't choose anything, because then you're a victim. So if I answer your question and I say, no, we didn't choose our Arudha, then you're a victim. But if I say to you, yes, you chose your Arudha because this was something that you wanted to learn from, now you're taking full responsibility for it, and you have this feeling that there's something selfish in it for me, that if I follow my karmic lesson, I will benefit, I will be happy. So I can't tell you whether yes or no. I'm going to assume that I did choose it. This is one of the most important lessons that I've ever learned. My life was not easy at all. I look back on it now in a comfortable place in life, and I look back at what I went through, the first 30, 40 years of my life. And, I don't know how I survived it, to be honest with you. But I learned, I can remember in my early 20s, really, really unhappy, like literally thinking about suicide almost on a daily basis. And I remember coming to the conclusion that I have to, and I didn't know anything about karma. I said, I just have to assume that that I've chosen this. I've chosen these challenges. because if I didn't, there was literally no way to overcome them. They would have destroyed me. So I had to come to the conclusion that it was my choice. And therefore, every time, and I also came to some, conclusion again that I would say now, it's obvious if you're a spiritual practitioner, but it wasn't obvious to me then, but I came to the conclusion that every time that I was in pain, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, like in major, like suicidal pain, my feeling was that every second that I fought through it like a warrior and took responsibility, I was burning off karma. So it became, I'm going to burn off my karma. This is painful, but the more that I do it, and it's actually turned out to be true. Now as I come into the last third, the last half of my life, I am riding on the positive karma of all those years of just choosing to take full responsibility and to embrace the challenges as they come. And the pain means, just like when you go to the gym and that last rep hurts like hell, what pushes you through is knowing that your muscles are going to build. So you have to, in my experience, if you want to get through life, you have to take full responsibility. You have to decide that you've chosen this, because the only other alternative is you're a victim. But if you take responsibility, you end up being able to do the impossible. It really is. There is no limits to what you can accomplish if you follow those guidelines. Which is why I won't put up with any victim mentality on my channel. And that's for your benefit. I'm not going to co-sign anybody's victimhood, ever. And if that means you don't like it, because it will, when I challenge your victimhood, I act like the Olympic coach. If I challenge your victimhood, and I said, what, are you going to give up? You're going to go home? Go home, give up. You might as well just give up. Go home now. Stop wasting your time. If I co-sign your victimhood, then you're going to go out in the ring and you're going to get knocked out. You're going to let life take you down. And I'm not going to co-sign that for anybody. I know from personal experience that anybody can accomplish anything, no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult, if it's in alignment with what your soul wants. That your soul is invincible and can accomplish absolutely anything. All right, let's see what else. Donson Thunder Warrior. Question. My Arudha is in the 10th house. Can you talk about 10th house in context to Arudha? Well, I think I have already, but I'll do it again. So the 10th house is the natural Arudha. So if somebody's Arudha lands in the 1st or the 7th, because it can't be the 1st house, because the self can't be the reflection of itself. Doesn't work. The 7th can't be the Arudha, because the 7th is already the reflection of the self, which is the other, which is why 7th house is marriage. 1st house is self, 7th house is the spouse. So the 7th house is the other already. So the 7th house can't be the Arudha. So when those two things happen, the only other possibility is the natural Arudha, which is the 10th house, which is your fame. People used to use it as your career, but really it's your fame. It's your natural reputation in the world. People's last name, Tom Baker. Well, that means that somebody's ancestor was the guy who baked the bread in that village. Who should I talk to? You should talk to Tom. Who's Tom? Oh, the baker. Oh, you're the guy who cooks the bread? Yeah, that guy. Go talk to the baker. That's his fame. That was what he did for a living. Now, it's not so much what you do for a living, although it can be. It's your fame. So that's why it's the natural Arudha. So what else can I tell you? I don't know that there is anything. Then you treat it exactly like you would treat anything. Your Arudha does not fall in the 7th house. XTHSNRX. It's the 10th, as I just said. The 7th house can't be your Arudha. So Rigoberto, welcome to the channel. I'm in a fairly calm state today. We don't have a lot of people. But what we do on this channel is this is a question and answer. So that means if you have a question, you can see below that Dean has written the word question in all caps, and then he has a question. I only want two things from people. I want your honest question and an honest feeling. That information you're giving us is interesting, but it just creates noise for me. I have to scroll through it, and I'm not interested in people dropping their opinion or being my cheerleader or arguing with me. That's not what we do here. So welcome to the channel. If you want to participate, I only want your question and your honest feeling. If something I've said has stimulated a feeling in you, I want to hear that. Other than that, I don't. You'd be doing me a favor by not adding to the static, to the noise. What else? Dean Nevins, question. I have Mars and Moon in Pisces in the 10th house from my Arudha. What does that mean for how others see my Arudha? So as I started to get into that, I realized that I'm talking out of my rear end. There's a whole thing about where you can find out what the reputation of the Arudha is. I forgot how that calculation works. I started trying to do it, and then I got myself into trouble. So the 10th house from anything is the 10th house. So the 10th house is the fame of anything. So if we wanted to look at the second house and we used your second house as your ascendant, then you can do that with your chart. You can look at the third house, the fourth house, the fifth house. You can use anything as the first house, and then of course all the rules apply. So the 10th from the 10th from the Arudha. Logically, that sounds like the fame of the Arudha, but again, I'm out of practice in terms of study for that, so I don't want to talk out of my ignorance. So I'm not going to answer that question. What else? All right, I don't see any other questions here, so we've got to do a little bit of business, because this is my business. As I've said, this is my Arudha. This is how I make a living, as well as my service to the world. So we have a couple things going up here. We have the thunderwizard.com Manifestation Mastery course. I've just started a new series on that called the Omnipotence series. And I teach you exactly how to use the universe as literally a slot machine. You just pull the lever and out comes what you intend. But you have to understand the rules. You have to understand how all these things work, the components in you. You literally, your body is literally a manifestation machine. It is a magical machine that manifests. So you're either manifesting consciously or unconsciously. Unconsciously is not good. You're miserable, you're poor, you're sick, you're lonely. That's a result of unconscious manifestation. Conscious manifestation means that you know what your soul wants, which many people don't, and you are taking the appropriate action to get that. The Arudha is one tool. Once you know what your Arudha is, then you can literally pull the lever on your life and get it to give you what your greatest desires are. But what we're really focusing on here, we've got the maushan.thunderwizard.com, which is the most powerful energy practice in the entire world based on my experience. I haven't seen anything, and I've tried a lot. A lot of esoteric energetic practices. I haven't seen anything even come close to this. This, you can go and if you want to practice the elite sorcerer practice, you can. Directly connected to that is the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, which is at thunderwizard.com. You go there and subscribe to that. You can learn the ancient sorcery practice of the Maoshan spirit fighters. Let's see, where's the Maoshan temple? These guys, this is the first Taoist temple that was ever built in China, that spawned all the rest of the Taoist monasteries and mountains, and this is the famous Shangqing Maoshan temple. They had an understanding of energy, and they had a secret practice which was connected to the lightning power in the heart center. And they were the only ones that I know of that learned how to, simply by manipulating the meridians through movement as well as other things, you could open up that lightning power which would go into your body. That gave them powers and abilities that the rest of the world still calls them black magicians and sorcerers, etc., etc. So I am teaching that practice to you here at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. So go to thunderwizard.com and go check that out. All right, I've done my business now. Let's see if there's any other questions that have come up. So Nancy G, thanks for the $5. And I see your statement there. It's going to be beneficial for you. I don't know, Nancy, are you doing this? Are you doing this stuff right here? Because that's what this is about. This is the theory, the manifest. By the way, if you do this, you automatically get access to this. But if you subscribe to this, you don't get access to this. So I recommend everybody subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, because then you get access to this as well as the Shamanism Mastery course. But this right here is designed to give you the consciousness, number one, of why you're on the floor crying and frustrated, and it's not, you're not able to get the success that you want. But it also gives you the power to go out and get it. So I don't know if you're doing that, but this is another reason why, if you go to thunderwizard.com, you can see apprenticeship options. This is why I work with apprentices, because you can't do it alone. If you're struggling, if you're, as you say, on the floor crying about it, your desire for success, that leads me to believe that you're not accomplishing it, which means that you need some help. You either need to become aware of what your true desires are, and or you need to become aware of the inherent challenges and blocks that we've designed into this game that make it something we really have to understand how to work towards. When you can understand that, then you can accomplish your success. So I already know that I don't know you, Nancy, but I already know there's a conflict. I already know you have a conflict between your soul and some other part of you that wants to be accepted in the world. And that conflict is creating your problem. So you say you want to book a session. If you go to career.thunderwizard.com, if you're looking for a one-off session, you can go there, scroll to the bottom, and you can purchase a session with me. If you want to be an apprentice and work with me on a weekly or monthly basis, then you can go to thunderwizard.com and click around and become an apprentice. Apprentices have access to all of the videos. So again, Nancy, I don't know what you're doing and what you're not doing. All right? So if you want a session, that's how to do that. I don't see anything else on here. And I'm tired. So if you don't have any questions, I'm going to go take a nap, and then I'm going to go look at some surfboards at the new surf shop that's opening up down the street, which makes me very happy, which is another reason why, I want to see, by the way, just to let you know, I want you to help me with this. I want to see 1,000 people subscribed to this. When we have 1,000 people who are working with the lightning power of the heart, who understand, those who've been doing it, understand what I'm talking about. The power that's available. When I have enough people, I'm going to start doing interactive events where we together send our intentions out into the world to see what we can do to change the world. We're in a very precarious place, and I don't know if we'll have any, if we have the necessary karma to do something about it, but we are on the precipice of heading into another dark ages. Democracy is hanging by a thread, and there is a very serious possibility that we may be seeing the end of democracy in the world. We are on the verge of about to potentially enter into another fascist era where people who are not interested in your freedom and in your self-determination are seeking to take power over the most powerful countries in the world. This is a very real threat, and personally, I don't know if there's anything I or anybody else can do about it, but there needs to be spirit warriors, people who are willing to do the work on themselves and also do the work to help raise the consciousness of the world. And we do it, if you got the same karma as I do, we do it through our own practice of ourselves. Some people go out and become politicians, some people become activists, some people become, whatever. Some people become saints and create religions. And then there's people like me who, by working on myself and improving myself and teaching others how to do that, that's how I do my job. So if you want to be a part of that, go to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and eventually, when lockdown and the international travel opens up again, if there's enough people, we'll start having retreats and other things like that where we can get together and focus our intention into the world and see what happens. Okay? Nancy G, you know how this works. If you have a question, what is it that you do? You write the word question. You write the word question and then ask your question. So Nancy G, is it wrong to work on the rituals you recommend and chanting Buddhist chants? It's not wrong, but Buddhist chants are mantras. So every mantra has an astrological connection to it. So if you're doing one of my rituals and you've got a mantra and then you're going to do a Buddhist chant, then you're doing two different things. Are you studying archery or fencing? You gotta kind of pick one. Which one is it that you want to do? So I don't have anything against it. The problem is if you want to do Buddhist chants, do Buddhist chants. The rituals that I teach are usually connected to mantras. So I'm not telling you can't do both. It's just, it's good to know what you're dealing with. So talk to an astrologer. An astrologer will be able to, an astrologer who knows mantras will be able to tell you what Buddhist chant you're interested in and what planet and what deity it works with, etc., etc. And again, what Buddhism are we talking about? Are we talking about tantric Tibetan Buddhism, which is basically tantric Vedic Hinduism that has a Buddhist label slapped on it? Or are we talking about that Japanese Buddhism that has that Om Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, which is a totally different deal? Are we talking about Chan Buddhism, which is actually Zen Buddhism? There's all different kinds of Buddhism out there, and they're not the same. So I can't answer your question because it's not specific enough. All right, so that's it. That's it for me, guys. I hope you're doing well. And Nichiren Shoshu, so that's the Japanese Buddhism. So do you want to chant Om Nam Yoho Renge Kyo? I mean, there's so many problems with that. On a personal note, I have so many problems with it because it's just, it's a completely messed up translation. It's so poorly translated. I mean, they're really, it's your, their Om Nam Yoho Renge Kyo is actually kind of, whatever. It's people's religion. So if that's important, you do it. If that's what you want to do, I would do it. I would just focus on that. I wouldn't mix traditions. I mean, like I said, are you learning fencing or are you learning archery? You try to learn how to shoot an arrow while fighting with a sword in the other hand. You got to pick one. Kind of fell into it. No, there's no such thing. You don't kind of fall into anything. There's no such thing. That was a choice that you made. So Nancy, you've worked with me before. It looks like you know the drill. You got to take responsibility for your choices. Remember, if we talked a lot, you got to take responsibility for your choices. If you're the Nancy that I'm remembering, and I could be wrong, forgive me if I am, you had difficulty remembering, when you had scheduled a session. So your experience is, oh my God, I forgot. But in reality, it was an unconscious, deliberate choice. You've got to own your choices. Got to take full responsibility. There's no such thing of, oops, I made a mistake. It happens, but it means that your unconscious mind is working against you. So you got to be conscious. All right? All right. So yeah, if you want to have a session with me, go to career.thunderwizard.com and we can discuss it. All right. That's it for me. Like I said, I'm going to go eat, take a nap, and go look at surfboards. I hope you guys all do well. Please go do something for yourself. I can't tell you the difference in me when I do the thing that my soul wants me to do. I spent 2.5 hours yesterday surfing. That's why I'm so tired. But I'm so much happier when I do my medicine. Xanacor throws in a question at the last minute. Question. Do you read Germanic runes that are pulled face down? So Zancor, welcome to the channel. I don't have the link on here, but go to courses.thunderwizard.com. I have 3 books on the runes. 3 of them. I have no shortage of videos of runes on this channel. So forgive me, but one of the things that I do is I encourage people to take full responsibility, which includes paying attention and putting effort. So if you just put as much effort as it took for you to write that question into going onto my YouTube channel and searching for rune videos, you would have the answer to that question. So unfortunately, that's offensive to me. It means you haven't even bothered to look through the free videos on my channel, because that question is very easily answered. And so since I don't want to do the work for you, you go find out what I teach, because there's no shortage of places for you to find out what I teach about the runes. Let's see. That's it? Nothing else? All right, guys. I will see you when I see you. Take care of yourselves. Let's see, what am I looking for? Where'd it go? There it is.